All right, so first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna draw our egg light across form in charcoal. Why don't you take your vine charcoal first, an inch or two, using it on its side. I want you to put a layer of vine charcoal down, press down a bit so that you can cover the whole thing with a coat of that vine charcoal. Once you got it all coated, once you take your hand and just rub it down so that it's a nice even gray and the texture disappears. Whoops. So rub it all down all over. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to focus on the composition. I know you're not seeing the same view of the egg as I am, but you did see it hopefully in the last one, the setup, so you kind of remember that. This is the highest part to the egg. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the top of my paper. You see how much bigger I'm drawing this egg? I'm using, I think it's like a quarter piece of my regular white drawing paper, using vine charcoal to set this up. I'm looking at where the shadow starts on the ground, and if I'm looking at the tip, the nose of the egg, I think it starts about right here. The shadow on this side of the egg starts, that's about halfway, that starts down about here. Remember, you want to imagine that the shadow would connect if you could see through the egg. I'm looking to see that this nose, the shadow is actually out a little bit farther than the nose. So there it is. I'm looking to see, like, from the edge of the egg shell to the edge of the shadow, there's about this much room. It's not up close, it's not off the page. It's about there. So that helps me connect this to this. And then I've got this part. This rounds off because the back end is quite round. And there is my shadow. You see how you can kind of see an egg shadow there? Then I can just slightly rub that down. All right, I'm now done with my vine charcoal, and I'm going to start working with my charcoal pencil. So this is a white paper, this is a white egg, but not everywhere is white. So what I'm seeing here is this part of my egg is lighter than the background. The core shadow to my egg is much darker than this, up and through here. I've got some reflected light down and through here, but it's not as light as this area. I can almost see a highlight right in through there on the egg. And then the shadow is actually, seems very close to what the core shadow is up and through here. This is lighter, this is darker, this is lighter, this is darker. My lightest light seems to be like right in here from this light source that's coming down. And on the egg, the lightest source is right in through there. Before I start carving away at the light with my eraser, I'm going to start building up the gray first. So I'm always looking to see what is lighter, egg or background, egg or background, egg or background. It's a relationship back and forth, back and forth. And there is no line around the edge of the egg. The first tendency is to want to put a big black line around the egg to separate it from the background. We're going to try to let the value do the work of getting the egg to stand out. I'm having a problem with my charcoal pencil. I sharpen it and it breaks, and I sharpen it and it breaks. You know that one. So I'm going to expose a little bit less charcoal this time and see how it works. So I'm going to start on the egg, and I'm going to start really, really lightly again, using this on its side, not on a point, and start to look at that core shadow as it moves around the egg. It's moving around the tip of the egg. It's moving around the belly of the egg and around in through here. This is darker than this is. This is going to be quite white. And this is part of that shadow area. So I am going to add some charcoal in through here. Now this is lighter than this is, so I don't want to build that up too much. I've got a core shadow that comes down about in through here. I'm just adding, and then I'm looking at the back side to the egg. This is darker than the background in here, and it goes till about here, and then it changes. This is lighter, that's darker. So I'm going to turn that core shadow around the back side of the edge. You see I'm working my charcoal in the direction of the categories of light. This continues. This is lighter. This is a bit darker. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And then it changes. This is darker, then this is lighter. So let me jump down here now and work a little bit on the shadow. I'm just roughing it in at this point. I know it doesn't look like much. The darkest part to the shadow is the first thing I want to look at. And it's pretty dark right underneath here. Not full on black, but pretty dark. And then it changes as it goes out here. So I want to add some charcoal, but not a lot. This seems to be the darkest part of this cast shadow. Not as dark as this, but that's pretty good in through there. So there's a nice transition across there. I'm seeing this pretty dark compared to that. Not completely black, but I'm adding some charcoal pencil over the surface of that. So that's a good start across here. All right, let me rub this down now. So I'm just going to take my finger and gently just rub the core shadow in first. And I want to pull this down a little bit. I'm lessening the pressure from my finger. And let that be the reflected light. Now I want to go the other way across here. This has some, I'm going to add a little bit more here. God, sometimes it's really hard to talk and draw. I'm going to put a little bit more dark in that core shadow. And I really can't evaluate things till I start rubbing it and see what happens. So this is a pretty nice little light little shadow. I'm going to rub this surface now, the shadow surface, my darkest part right in through there. You can see it almost starting to come to life now, right? It looks a little bit more round. Across there. Now the background is just slightly darker at the top of the egg. Where you find your lightest light, you'll often find some of your darkest darks. I wouldn't say that this white paper back here is really, really dark, but it is also a little bit more than the vine charcoal. Now I'm going to rub that down. And this is where it starts to get tricky, because This is darker, this is lighter. This is lighter, this is darker. So that's going to be an important thing to talk about. This back part of the egg is slightly darker than I have it. And it's dark pretty much all the way down to where the shadow starts. And then at the shadow, where the shadow meets the egg, this is lighter, that's darker. So I'm going to rub that background, that butt end of the egg down a little bit more. And that shadow's a little bit darker in through here. All right, maybe I'm going a little bit too fast, but I'm gonna start with my lightest light. And I'd probably be using a kneaded eraser here, but I don't have one at home. So I'm just using my white eraser. I wanna take the charcoal off. So I'm just rubbing it on my tabletop here to get rid of a lot of that black. So that's the highlight. But this edge is quite light too. So I am coming out to the edge of the egg. I want to define that until I get to about here, and then it turns dark again. This is in a lot of shadow. Let me I'm just taking some of this off with my fingers so I have less charcoal to erase. And I'm wiping my fingers on my pants, of course, because that's what I do. If you want, have like a face cloth next to you or some paper towels. And this end of the egg is lighter. So I'm going to play around with my eraser to getting that a little bit lighter in through there. To get a nice edge on the egg, because this is not a very nice edge, again, cut this down, cut a little bit off again, and you get a nice sharp edge on the eraser. And you can just use your eraser, that nice sharp edge of your eraser, to make that transition start to happen. Oof, I wish I had my kneaded eraser now, baby. All right, so that looks pretty good. I think this needs to be just a hair darker. Once I start getting some light in, you can see how it changes my feeling about what values I have in other places. Let me work on getting the background down a little bit. So the background, again, it is the lightest light here. It's a little less light, but this is the strongest one. So I am just pushing down as hard as I can to lift off that vine charcoal that we put down earlier. And it's kind of fun carving in the light. And that continues across here. Again, I can just use my fingers to wipe out more charcoal. And that light continues a little bit less, but continues across here. continues across here. So the pressure on your eraser is really important, just like it is the pressure on your other drawing tools. If you want to wipe out more, then you press down harder. If you want to wipe out less, then you go lighter pressure. Sorry, I know you can't see this, but I'm just erasing this back. See where this dark is? It means there's got to be some light back here. And then see where the egg gets lighter? This has to get darker back here. So we want a kind of smooth transition if we can. Starting to be magical. Across here. That's pretty good. And now we want to do the transition this way. So this is still kind of dark at this edge, so that means this background is lighter. Again, not as light as this area, but some light across there. And then it changes about right here. This is lighter, this is darker. So again, I have to work at transitioning that background. I'm gonna go back and really try to get more of this out. And then softening that up a little bit. So I don't want lines to show on there. So I can add a little bit more value around this edge. I don't want the shadow edge to be a hard edge. Remember, shadow edges are much softer than the object edges. But I think this could probably do with just a hair more charcoal. A reminder again, you've noticed that I have not worked with my Vine charcoal. This is just with my charcoal pencil now, right? And I don't think I'm going to use my compressed either. This is kind of working nicely. All right, so now I'm going to tighten this edge. I'm drawing a line around this, but I'm trying to match the value. I'm not doing a big fat black line. I want to match the value of the shadow in through there and across there. And now I'm going to work at getting this edge. You notice I keep turning my paper around because I don't want to drag my hand across the charcoal. It's very soft and it will smudge very, very easily. So you see my hand is off the paper, and that's really going to help my drawing stay clean. All right, this background, I got to get this background working a little bit better. Just darken that up a little bit more. So I want the egg again to have a sharp edge. I don't know if you can see this. Let me turn it again. Sharp edge here. But again, I do not want to make a big flat black line. I'm just going to make a very light line and then add a little bit of compressed charcoal pencil in the background. There is a place about right in through here where it's really hard to tell the difference between the background and the edge and the egg. So sometimes those are what are called lost edges, and it becomes kind of one and the same. Your eye, we have a panic attack because we think, oh, there's no edge there. but your eye will fill it in. It will fill that space in, and your brain will understand that there is a edge. It's just not completely drawn in. So I'm going to end the video there. Keep finessing, fine-tuning. I'll post my finished drawing in the egg discussion area for you to see. Hope it goes well.